Hello and welcome to the HCA Succession Aftershow. My name is Will Mavity, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Joining me for an in-depth discussion about Succession Season 3, Episode 8 of 9, not 8 of 10, which is pretty weird, is Rasha Goel. So hi, Rasha.
Hello, everyone. You're right. I mean, so strange that we're not having 10, but we'll talk about that later.
So before we jump into a nice in-depth conversation about this episode, which I think is probably one of the best of the season thus far, you should know that, as usual, the Succession After Show is going to contain spoilers for the current episode as well as previous episodes of Succession. So each week we're going to be breaking down what happens in each episode, giving a full recap, our favorite moments, favorite lines of dialogue, and what we think is going to happen next week. So if you haven't caught up with Succession and you don't want it to be spoiled, why don't you come back and watch this video after you've seen this episode? And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our other great content. Now, without further delay, let's get into this week's episode entitled Chiantishire. Am I pronouncing that right?
I think so. I'm going to guess that too.
Chiantishire? Okay. And it's written by Jesse Armstrong and Jamie Carragher, directed by Mark Mylod. Brief plot summary is as follows. After a tense board meeting to discuss that acquisition of Lucas Matsson's streaming company Gojo, Roman shares his suspicions about their mother's new boo with Shiv. As a Lux wedding gets underway in Italy, Jerry draws a line in the sand with Roman. The Waystar team grows increasingly concerned about Matsson's rogue tweets, and Shiv and Caroline, their mom, have a heart-to-heart of sorts. So, let's kind of go play by play. I thought this was a really fantastic and interesting episode across the board. It starts with this kind of fun scene where Kendall and Logan bring Stewie and Sandy's daughter into a meeting before the board meeting. And I like how they're all still pretending that Sandy is
Right.
not in like a vegetative state. You know, my dad wishes he could be here too. So they're kind of bummed that they allegedly this acquisition of the streaming company owned by Lucas Alexander Skarsgård's character is moving forward, and they're just now finding out about it before a board meeting to basically approve the acquisition. And Sandy's daughter is concerned that Shiv is being iced out now that we saw, as with last weekend, that Roman is really asserting himself and taking over. And then you have this scene in the board meeting where Logan is recused because it might involve his fate in the company, but he's literally standing outside the glass and staring in at them. And so they're like, "Can we make a note in the minutes that that Logan is present?" And poor Shiv is stuck at home and being iced out. So, what did you think generally about this kind of opening the episode and where it's going with Roman's position and Shiv, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I'm going to have to say too, Will, this is one of my favorite episodes. I felt like there was so much happening in this episode, and so much did happen leading us into episode 9. With this particular scene that you're talking about, listen, I think from the last episode, we saw this divide really happening between Shiv and Roman. And I feel like Roman is really doing whatever he can to kind of hold his stake. He really wants to be at that position and is trying to prove himself, especially with this acquisition. And I loved how Sandy's daughter actually mentioned that Shiv wasn't there. We can see how that's emotionally hitting Shiv. I mean, she could have come into the meeting if she wanted, but she chose to do it from home and she chose to call in. And I think that's her way of, she's hurt. She's hurt. I think there's some anger there too, but she's hurt and she's trying to take all this in, because at this point she was, I think, trying to develop that relationship with her dad, thinking that, things are getting better and she's going to be in this powerful position. But now again, with this entire acquisition, the way it's played out, with Roman kind of leading the deal and her constantly being kicked out of it, not really having any input into it, I think she's kind of feeling the heat. So it was interesting how it all opened up. And I really liked that part where Sandy's daughter mentioned that, wait, shouldn't Shiv be here? Because it's almost again like she's having her back in a way, and that the whole dynamics there was really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, because right, those two basically saved the company earlier. They worked out a deal before it went to a shareholders vote. So, she clearly does recognize that she have has some degree of competency. And then like Roman doubles down on this. Everyone's flying to this lush resort for their mom's wedding in Italy. And Roman is just needlessly cruel on the whole flight to Shiv. Is like, oh, it's you. I recognize you, the person who used to be Siobhan Roy. She tells him he looked dumb at the board meeting. They kind of go back and forth, but Roman is adamant that they should try to persuade their mom not to marry this new guy because apparently he's some kind of sleazy businessman who owns nursing homes and takes advantage of elderly people,
Yep.
which is even by their standards maybe particularly despicable. Um,
And they both want to make sure that she has a prenup basic. Well, here's the thing. I'm
yeah,
going to go back on that because you were mentioning the plane ride, right? And Roman is so mean to her. He's so mean to Shiv and he's suggesting, should we talk to mom about this? And I think at this point too, Shiv just doesn't care. I think again, she's harboring those feelings of hurt and anger. She's like, whatever, I don't care. And even in that conversation, like he's really concerned about his mom having a prenup with this guy, very worried about her, and Shiv just doesn't care. And you're right, he is very mean because we do talk about the acquisition one more time there with Gojo, and he's like, Tom even tried, I think, mention about, oh, let's talk about the deal. And he's like, oh, you're not a part of it. And then Shiv says, well, I am a part of it. And he's like, not really. And there's some awkwardness there too, right? Where he says, oh, well, once I take over, you're going to become that sexy secretary, which I find, again, very awkward. Will, we know he's got some issues there. And we'll see that unfold with Jerry a little bit later. So yeah, not really a very happening conversation, but I think they're all kind of concerned with their mom, but in a weird way, don't even care to a certain point as well.
yeah. So I guess we should. I guess that kind of opens the door to the next thing that they learn about this guy that their mom's marrying, which is that they think he might have killed his first wife. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I heard that too. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know about him. Peter, right?
Yeah. Who plays him? He's not the guy from the Mummy, is he? The British guy?
Um,
No.
no, I don't
He's
think so.
not John Hannah. Yeah, I don't know who plays him, but interesting vibes there. Very much a sketchy guy. And so he they arrive. Kendall shows up at the wedding with a shaved head, just looking bizarre. And then he learns from his mom that basically Peter wants to have a very formal traditional wedding. And the way the ceremony is going to break down is that Logan has requested that Kendall be completely separated from from everyone else in his participation in the wedding. To which he's basically like, I think I'm gonna leave. So that was very interesting. And then also, you also have arriving at the wedding Jerry and Roman, as you mentioned, it's this incredibly uncomfortable thing where she's like, Jerry, I need to draw a line in the sand. You can't keep sending me dick pics. And she's clearly very uncomfortable about it. She's got another boyfriend, and Roman just really doubles down on it. And he's like, oh, you're acting like a minx. I can't tell if you mean it. It's a genuinely very uncomfortable scene. And it's really amazing how quickly Roman's done another 180 for me going to liking him again, just being like, he's insufferable. He's a piece of shit. He's full on sexually harassing now.
Oh, totally. Completely. I think with his comments to his own sister about the sexy secretary was just so out of
Yeah.
place. I mean, she was just like, what the hell, Roman? And then even like this entire interaction with Jerry, right? Like you said, Jerry's done with him, but he just doesn't get it. And then he keeps kind of harassing her with also wanting to screw over Lori, the guy that she's dating. So yeah, the dynamics there are really, really interesting with him. But at the same time, too, well, I'm going to say, he's on a mission here. He's on a mission here to again make sure that he is in that reigning position, that he, he's the guy that his dad's going to pick to kind of lead the company and doing whatever he can. And right now with this Gojo account, he's the one that's on top of it. I find it funny that there's this wedding happening and you're seeing all this these business interactions happening there, right? Like, let's jump and talk about some of the other things happening in this atmosphere. You've got Connor, who proposes to his girl, right?
Yeah. Oh
You've
my
got
God, in front of
Greg.
everyone.
Yes. And it's so funny because poor Connor, he's like, just to save my reputation, can you say yes? Let's just like it's embarrassing.
She says, like, "Can you smile and make it look
Right.
good?" Like, and she's like, "I'll think about it." And that's a recurring episode in the theme in this episode of people saying, like, "I'll think about it." You also at this wedding, you have Kendall's PR person telling him that people are digging into Waystar's past, and one of the things they're interested in is a caterer who died, which is rumored to be linked to Waystar, and of course
And a
that
suicide,
concern
possibly, I believe.
the server. You
Yep.
said what?
Well, wasn't
Yeah.
it a suicide? The
Well, they
death of
mentioned. I think there was. Yeah, there was some kid who was bullied into suicide. Yes, as well as the caterer who drowned. But Kendall's obviously concerned about them digging into the caterer who drowned because that's the one he killed.
right.
So that's definitely interesting. And then she leaves, goes off the clock, and then gives this very awkward brief interaction to Greg. So clearly they are seeing each other to some degree. And then she basically like kisses him on the cheek and is like, "Oh, phone stuff, gotta leave." So Greg understands, I think, that this is probably opportunistic, little bit of a bummer. Gets kind of a talk with Tom and Shiv, and they basically
Which
tell
isn't
him,
happening, by the way, Will. They're so mean to him.
"Oh no, it's awful." But they're like, you can use her as a date ladder, and you can use her to go after someone better, like a countess who's there, which I thought was pretty hilarious. And then
No, go ahead.
Lucas tweets this insane tweet, right? And basically says he's going to Macau and his tongue's sticking out, which obviously freaks everybody out.
Yeah. And I think that's basically the entire probably first half of the episode, right? We see the episode really focusing on this and all of the characters having a conversation around this. Everyone's panicked. I mean, even, Kendall's like, what the hell is going on with this? You've got Logan. Everyone is really, really concerned about this tweet and really understanding what is going on with this guy and if he's going to screw them over or not. And I think this again leads into all the different conversations that are happening, on, again, holding the power and seeing what they can do. And of course, it's interesting for me to see how Roman kind of saves the day. So we see Roman, heading off to have this conversation with Lucas. Even there, his interactions are so funny with Lucas on how he's not going to open up. Like Lucas is trying to hit like a personal place with him, I feel, but he just doesn't let him become vulnerable. And he's like, man, what the hell's going on? So, hey, but at the end of the day, he does save the day, right?
We hope. We will see.
That.
So, that's the first half of the episode. The second half has these two really interesting conversations with kids and their parents, because obviously Caroline meets with Shiv, and they have this whole thing where basically Shiv confronts Caroline over being kind of an absentee mom, and then her mom's like, "You chose this, you chose to go with the money. I had to give up custody in exchange for you guys to keep your shares." Like, they call each other their onions to make each other cry. And then she has just this ruthless line about, "I shouldn't have had kids. You made the right decision not to have any," which is just
so
a
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That was such a heartbreaking conversation. And again, you can feel now the pain that Shiv is carrying, right? And I almost feel like that leads to that conversation with her and Tom talking about having kids. And now she wants to have kids out of spite.
Yeah. Oh, it's the most unhealthy thing in the world. So they go back and they decide to hook up, and then Tom's like, "Let's talk dirty." And she's like, like, "I don't love you. I'm too good for you. I'm out of your league." And then she's like, "But you want me anyway." And they still fuck.
Yep.
It's
Okay,
so
Will,
disturbing.
but don't you think there's some truth to that? I know he was telling her to talk dirty, but and we see that happen later where he actually asks her about that. And I know that, he's feeling a little hurt about it, but I feel like there is some truth to that. Like, I don't think she really loves him.
Well, she even says that later. She's like, I may not love you, but I do love you. Afterwards, when the poor guy's trying to get some closure. No, I think it's very clear she does not love him. And the only reason she, as you said, it's out of spite. She had sex with him just to spite her mom.
And they
And
should
then
not
the
be
next,
having children, Will. These two
no.
should not be bringing a child into the world. Definitely not.
And then she's talking about like freezing the embryos too and waiting 10 years.
And then she's like, "Oh, and if we get divorced, it's okay." So I'm like, this woman
Yeah,
is
and
so wacky.
he's like, if I died, I would want you to, have my kids. And he's like, wouldn't you? And she's like, can I think about it? And it's just like, oh my God.
She's so warped. She's so warped. But again, a lot of this coming from spite. And here's the thing, I think in that scene, you really realize what a lost childhood she has between her mom and her, and then, of course, between her and Logan, right? So she's
Yeah.
constantly trying to find love between either one of these parents and really never receive that. And speaking of love, Will, let's talk about the scene between Logan and Kendall. So Kendall invites him home to dinner. I think it's leading up to this decision and this conversation he wants to have. We know they both really aren't too keen on meeting with each other, but he sets up this dinner, brings in a chef to make the special dinner for his dad. And I think that one scene was so telling where Logan calls in his kid and says, "You try the food before I try it," thinking
He thinks he poisoned him.
It reminds me of the donut scene, though, a couple episodes back, right? When they're like, "Dad sent donuts. Maybe he wants to poison one of us." So that was really telling there as well. And that conversation, of course, you see Kendall being so vulnerable. I think we finally in this episode see where Kendall is just feeling lost and accepting a little bit of defeat. Like he just can't fight anymore. That spite, that energy, it's gone.
Yeah, it's really interesting. He's trying to be honest, and he tells his dad he wants out. He says, "Cash me out. You will literally never hear from me again. I want to take my money and go." And it's the exact same thing his dad offered him, and he's totally open. And then his dad is like, "Well, last time I offered that was just a bit of fun. Maybe
That
I
pissed me
want
off, Will.
this."
I gotta
Oh
tell you,
my
that
God.
pissed me off. I was like, okay, wait, Kendall's finally coming back, and now you're just blowing him off when he's actually willing to compromise somewhere with you.
So of course Kendall starts getting back in his bullshit of like, I is holier than thou bullshit. He's like, I'm better than you. You're a bad person. I can't do what you can do, but it's because I don't suck. And then Brian Cox Logan responds with just this chilling thing about like, how long do you think that boy you killed was underwater sucking air before he choked and you
It's
just
so
left
eerie.
him there? And then he's like, like I spent my whole life cleaning up your messes and I'm the bad person. And then just like leaves. I mean, just brutal.
Yeah, that was a real brutal scene. I think between the two of them, just both of them going back and forth with kind of demeaning each other. And but again, it didn't really end with any conclusion. So like we don't know what Logan is going to decide when it comes to him. And I think that leads us to even the ending, right? Of where we see, Kendall in the pool and his kids leaving him, and then just this whole melancholy scene of him just you could just feel his pain, his hurt, and how defeated he is at this point. And I got to tell you, I love the way that scene was shot with him in the pool.
Oh
We
yeah,
get
going
this,
underwater.
yes, shot from underwater, the bottle falling, even the music in that particular scene, it just really hit me. I just loved the way that entire scene was captured.
Well, and he mentioned, he had said like, how long do you think that kid was sucking air? So you see the bubbles of Kendall's like trying to literally breathe under the water. He's trying to experience what it would have felt like to drown. I assume he's not actually going to die. Like they kind of make it seem like the episode's ending with, is he going to drown himself? I
Right.
imagine that's not how Kendall dies if he dies. But
Now, I don't think they'll kill Kendall so quickly.
no, I think that's what I'm saying. Like I don't, they kind of want to tease you, but I don't think that's going to happen. But so that's the end of the episode with Kendall, but let's not dance around the other elephant in the room, which is Roman
Yes,
seemingly
most important.
Roman seemingly saves things with Lucas, but Lucas basically says, "I don't want to be acquired." I tweeted that maybe because I was trying to stir things up and raise my own share prices to show you how big and important I am. And basically, I want this not to be an acquisition. I want our companies to merge. We'll be equal. And Jerry obviously thinks Logan's never going to go for this. She's basically telling Roman that he needs to fall on his sword. She's like, I'm not really involved with the details in this. You have to tell Logan. And, they mentioned this is going to dilute the family stock. Management will probably be fired if there's mergers. But Logan hears this and basically says, we can't afford to walk away at this point. Yeah. I'm interested. Let's get the bankers in here. Roman is at the peak of his power. Everything is going his way. His Jerry texts him congratulations. His dad texts him congratulations. And then Roman cannot help himself and sends a dick pic, intending it to go to Jerry, and it goes to Logan in front of everyone.
He messed that entire thing up. I mean, what a sweet victory for him. And then for him to do that, I really love that scene between him and Logan. Just to see Logan's anger, right? And then Logan actually questioning him too on his sexual identity and all that. It was really interesting. And it's where it's so funny because I don't know if Roman really gets it, Will. Like, to him, it's still just a joke. And okay, he feels bad. He's like, oh shit, man, I sent it to the wrong person. But I don't feel like he really feels that much remorse about it. And whereas dad's really trying to understand what led him to send that. Like, why would he be and then his dad actually questioning if there's anything going on between him and Jerry.
And he's like, I don't like things, because that's, Logan's whole thing is control. And I think he's flabbergasted to think that two of the highest people in his company might actually have an affair behind his back. But yeah, both his interactions with Shiv, who immediately is trying to get revenge and is basically saying, Roman's sexual behavior has long been a liability. There's rumors about him harassing his personal trainer and stuff like that. So this is, she uses that basically to try and poison the well against Roman to kind of reconsolidate her own power, which she told Tom earlier she would do. She said she was going to fight her way back to the top. And what I thought was really interesting is she talked about she was going to try and change the culture there. And, she's been bothered all season by the whole question of them covering up sexual impropriety. But then she goes and does this horrible confrontation with Jerry, where she's basically like, like no one would want it to seem like you welcomed that sexual harassment and stuff. Maybe we should talk to the board, and like really bullies Jerry, who undoubtedly has felt like she's in a complicated position with Roman in terms of welcoming it or not. But that was an unbelievably fucked up thing, I thought, Shiv did to Jerry, to immediately, since she doesn't know the facts, just go and basically say, like, how can I spin this to to try and undermine both Roman and Jerry? I thought that was awful.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. She was definitely bullying Jerry, and the way she was making those comments and putting her on the spot, you can really tell that at that point, she's just trying to get the ball in her court, right? So I don't even feel like she really cares about the sexual harassment and Jerry and what she's going through. It's really trying to get this ball in her court and trying to create some type of drama up against Roman and make sure that he's kind of, it's pivoted against him. And I kind of feel bad for Jerry at that point, because she's really putting her in the corner. And Jerry's constantly telling her in that conversation, let's talk about it tomorrow. I'm okay. Give me a minute. And she's constantly spinning things around, right? Without really even listening to Jerry or hearing what she has to say. So yeah, I thought that was a quick turnaround on her part, so telling Roman when he was going in to talk to Logan that, hey, I took care of it for you. And this all goes down. And then quickly, within minutes, she's got Jerry there trying to act as if she's protecting the company and her dad and Jerry and making sure this doesn't happen again. So yeah, Jerry's got a lot on her hands too. So that's what I was saying. That's what I loved about this episode, Will, because there was so much happening with every single character. I mean, Connor, Greg, Shiv, Tom. Like we really saw a lot of different things at stake, and like you said, everybody just trying to. You said it earlier, and I'm sorry, I forgot what you were saying. I'm thinking about it. On people thinking
Yeah,
about things.
multiple people use that phrase. We
Yeah.
don't, in terms of things that should be often easy answers, like, do you love me? Will you let me cash out? And then ultimately, I guess this kind of leads into our predictions. Logan implies he might fire Jerry over this, which, you know, I particularly feel bad in Roman. I think it's interesting. I mean, obviously Roman does have some fondness for Jerry and also knows she's going to try and protect him. But I mean, I think he also, he says he's like, I'm not any kind of uber feminist, but I have to say, firing someone because they received a dick pic isn't a great look, because like we know that he and Jerry had some kind of consensual sexual relationship, but as far as the dick pics goes, she's basically made it adamant, I think, the whole time that she was not welcoming them. And
No,
it's
absolutely. I'm with
so
you on that too, and I think it's unfair. I think it's actually really unfair, and I'm glad he mentions that to her at the end, because Jerry should not be fired on account of Roman. That's Roman's doing, and it unfortunately happened to come, Logan's way. But the entire time, even from the beginning of this episode, right? She's told him, "Stop sending me those pictures."
so leading into predictions, though, I do wonder, is Logan going to fire Jerry, and then Jerry, who very much knows where the bodies are buried, is she going to go back to the feds who are closing up the case? Logan thinks that he's won, the company's back on track, and then she's like, "Oh, let me tell you everything," and then he's fucked, because I mean, Jerry would be the ultimate witness, the former CEO involved in everything, willing to talk. So I think that might be what happens, and we end the season on Logan won against Kendall, but in the process he's created a monster. And if that happens, I think there's no way the merger with Gojo happens, right? If they get
Oh,
drawn back
completely
in.
no, if that happens. But here's the thing I'm thinking, Will, like, yes, Jerry knows about all the skeletons in the closet for this company and for all of them. I don't know if we'll necessarily see that playing out in episode 9. And like we were saying, episode 9 is the final episode. We're not seeing 10 episodes this season. I think that may lead into season 4. But I don't think we'll see that in episode 9. I don't think Logan can let go of Jerry that quickly, no matter how angry he is, because at the end of the day, she still is a little bit smarter than all of his kids. She knows most about the company. She's held it together and always presented solutions to him. She's kind of been his right hand more than the kids have been. I mean, you've got Roman trying to create these deals, Shiv doing what she needs to do, the issues with Kendall. But at the end of the day, Jerry's always been there for Logan. And I think she still holds a strong stake in the company as far as her knowing how to lead the way and getting them out of things, even though we're seeing Roman kind of stepping up to the table. But this is like one of the first times we've really seen him, kind of with this acquisition, showing that he knows what he's doing. I don't know. I don't think he'll let Jerry go that quickly.
Well, and I think I think Roman blew it. Like, he had his moment in the sun, and I don't think Logan's going to ice him out of the company, but Logan, as you said, I don't think Roman realizes the extent of what he's done.
Right.
Logan, I mean, I think anyone would be upset if their kid sent them a nude, but especially someone who's as old school and conservative as Logan is, and because it makes him question Roman's character. He's like, are you a sicko? But also, I mean, for obvious reasons, it makes him question his judgment, which it should.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is no way he's gonna let Roman become the head of his company now if his son was stupid enough to make that mistake.
And Will,
Because
here's the other thing too. We're looking at a show, right? We're watching television, but in the real world, something like this, yeah, it is a big accusation. You are looking at sexual harassment here. Doesn't matter if he's Logan's son or not. So there is a lot at stake here where Roman might just think, oh, yeah, it's a fun joke. I've done this before. But if you dive deeper into it, yeah, this is a sexual harassment case of him sending these pictures to another authority figure, another colleague. And it does make you question, is he sick in the mind a little bit? What's instigated this behavior? And is this person moving forward going to be able to make responsible decisions for the company?
Also, I'll also say it seems like he's handled the Gojo merger well, but you know, Lucas doesn't actively say he wants a merger. He says, like, I just want what's best for me. And so it is kind of vague. He never entirely makes his intentions clear. And like Roman may have also miscalculated there. They still don't have anything on paper. So I think one way or another, I think that deal, as with all the big deals they've tried to make throughout the course of the show, is probably going to get blown up.
Yeah.
And I suspect next week is going to continue Roman's fall from grace. I wonder how long they're going to drag out the Tom and Shiv thing, because I mean, after that conversation, I think that is truly the moment that Tom realizes that Shiv doesn't care about him. I don't think he'll leave.
Well,
But
I don't think he'll leave either. Like
yeah,
he's like this little puppy dog. I don't think he'll leave. And I think he might get sucked into having a kid because he always wanted a child with her.
it's so sad. Like it is.
It's
Yeah, and you saw
heartbreaking.
that with him and Greg. I mean, clearly he longs to have, someone he can mentor, and it's funny. Their mom referred to Logan like if he would have a dog just so he could kick it and see if it loved him enough to come back. And I think that's, we're seeing that with
The kid.
Shiv. She's very much inherited that. She's like, I just almost for the fun of it want to see how much I can wound this person and see if they stick around. It's so twisted.
It's a very twisted family dynamic. Very, very twisted. And I feel like they're just out to get one another, no matter what it comes down to. And poor Kendall is finally having this realization that he doesn't want to be caught in this dirty mess. I think he's tired of it. I think it's taken a whole mental toll on him, and he's exhausted. He's one of the kids who's finally exhausted from all these games that are played in this family. So I'm interested to see how this whole thing unfolds. What will Logan offer to Kendall in the next episode? Will he
Yeah.
meet him? Will there be a compromise? And it'll be interesting to see where Greg lands too with these women.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, is Greg actually? I mean, he did mention that he was going to get a love interest this season, so he does end up chatting up that heiress.
Yes.
And he's as awkward as ever. But I kind of wonder if, in fact, one of these women is, in fact, now that they've like made the dating ladder element. Like, I do wonder if that's going to be a recurring joke with Greg ending up with girls who are increasingly out of his league.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
and then what
hats
about
off to him though. He does, it doesn't hold him back. He does try. So hats off to him for that.
so Connor? What do you think's going to happen with him wrapping up the season?
I think that because he proposed, and again, I just felt bad for him. I don't think she's ready to get married to him, and I have a feeling that they may fake it for her to say yes, just for the media, just for all the propaganda and whatnot. But there's something there. And I'd love to see what happens in episode 9 with that, because I don't think that she legit wants to really marry him. There's something odd that's happening there. So I think they may have a fake wedding or just something that they stage.
Yeah. And then any other predictions for how this season's going to end?
Oh gosh. I actually am thinking that Shiv and Tom are going to still try for that baby.
Yeah.
That might happen. I still feel that we won't get full closure with Kendall in episode 9. I don't know. What do you think, Will? Like, I feel like that's still going to drag on till season 4. I don't think we'll definitely see closure between him and Logan. And I don't think Jerry will be fired in episode 9 yet. What do you think?
No, yeah. So I mean, I feel like something big has to happen, though.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's going to be. Is Logan going to be incapacitated again? Is he going to have another stroke? Like, it seems like something seismic has to happen, or else literally basically nothing has changed since before Kendall got up and made that press conference at the end of last season, other than, you know.
And Will, do you think we'll see anything about the wedding happening? I mean, they obviously, the actor we were talking about is Pip Torrens, who plays Peter, the mom's, new husband to be. Do you think we're done with the wedding kind of? Because I mean, they're all in Italy. We see all this going down in Italy this past episode. Or do you think that was pretty much it? We were supposed to see some of these
No,
instigations that happened.
I think I remember reading that the last two episodes are set at the wedding and set in Italy. So I think this is going to continue. And I imagine there will be something big. Like, I don't know. They mentioned that people are all digging into scandals. So, maybe the fact that this guy has some kind of criminal past becomes a liability for the entire family and drums up yet another Roy scandal. Yeah, and I am wondering also, they're bringing up that caterer again. Is it going to, are the facts finally going to emerge that Kendall did kill this boy and Logan covered it up? I do wonder if that's going to reemerge, if they just mention that to make Kendall feel guilty, or if that is going to be a continuing problem.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to episode 9, though. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in this season finale.
Any favorite lines?
When aren't there favorite lines? I won't be able to reiterate the exact thing, but that scene between Jerry and Roman when she's like, this needs to stop, and they go back and forth, and then at the end he still leaves her with a stupid comment saying, all right, well, I guess you're going to see dicks coming out of this head. I don't know if you remember, he said something like that, and I'm like, oh my God, he just does not stop. He doesn't get it. And again with Roman too, there's that scene, I think probably it's the one where where Jerry comes to tell him that he needs to go talk to Lucas, that Logan is really concerned. And he talks about how it's going to be a great week because he's going to go, fuck Lori. And then he's going to sit here and still come back, and he's going to fuck Jerry, but he's going to make the acquisition or the merger or whatnot and stuff. So that whole dialogue between them, I thought was pretty interesting. And then the whole thing with Greg and that the new woman, and how he talks about her being affiliated with the yogurt company.
Yeah, he's like, I've had that before.
I've had that, yeah. So I thought there was just like some fun moments there. What stood out to you?
I love the line where poor Tom is like, when I said maybe we make it rough or talk dirty, I was thinking more like some anal beads or me as a sexy fireman, and not like all the you don't love me stuff. I thought that was so funny because once again, he is just kind of innocent. And she instead interprets that as like, I'm going to say, the exact same way that that Roman receives love from Jerry, she likes to give love like that, which I thought was so interesting. Like, Roman likes to be debased and Shiv likes to debase, which I thought was so interesting. So I think that line was probably my favorite. So that about wraps us up this week. Rasha, where can they find you?
I'm all over social media at Rasha Goel. Thanks, Will.
You can find me on Twitter at Mavericks Movies. As always, please subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week for our final in-depth discussion of this season of Succession, and then also our thoughts on the entire third season. We're looking forward to hearing what you thought of this episode, what your own predictions are. Please engage and comment, and we will see you next week.